start with where you're from.
Calcutta.
Which part?
I'm adopted, I'm not really Indian. I'm starting to remember.
Saroo, our beautiful boy.
We're very proud of yourself.
A life I'd forgotten.
You okay?
I had another family. A mother. A brother. I can still see their faces.
What happened?
इधर जा मत मैं कल का काम निपट के आ जाऊंगा
गुड्डू गुड्डू
I have to find my way back home.
How long were you on the train?
A couple of days.
Couple of days.
It would take a lifetime to search all the stations in India.
Do you have any idea what it's like? How every day my real brother screams my name.
I always thought that I could keep this family together. I need you, Saroo. What if you do find home and they're not even there? And you just keep searching?
I don't have a choice.
What was she like?
Beautiful. Every night I imagine that I'm walking those streets home, and I know every single step of the way. And I whisper in her ear, I'm here.
Bayanlar baylar, alkışlarınızla Saroo Brierley.
Well, thank you. Merhaba, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today. 29 years ago, I was living in a slum suburb somewhere in India. I was only about 5 years of age and stood just over a metre in height. And the only possession that I had on myself was my t-shirt and shorts, which hadn't been washed for ages and ages. My nuclear family consisted of my two older brothers, myself, my sister, and my mother. My father left my family and he went off with another woman and created another family himself, which left my family, and more specifically my mum, in destitute and deprivation. So she had to go out and start working. And I would hardly ever get to see her because she was working at a construction site, lifting up bricks and cement and hulling it over to the construction site. And it would be about 3 to 4 to 5 hours sometimes away from suburbia, from my hometown. And so for her to come back and see myself and my sister and my brothers was something that wasn't practical. And so, you know, I'd probably see her perhaps once a week or maybe twice a week sometimes, but the frequency of seeing my mum wasn't very good. And so my job was to look after my little sister. And I did that as best as possibly as I could. And I would go around during the evening and knock on people's doors, our neighbours, and ask if they had any leftover food. And sometimes you got something, and sometimes you didn't get anything. Something not substantial food anyway. It was just a little morsel to get us by. And I'd bring it back over to my house and give it to my little sister. Anyway, one particular night, we were all congregated together, myself, my two older brothers, my sister, and my mum. And I thought to myself, I know my job is to look after my little sister, but I want to do everything that my brothers did, of going out and stealing coals and eggs and so on, and, you know, going to the train station where they're selling toothpaste and making a little bit of money. So I thought, you know, I'll wait around the corner to see if my brothers would sort of phantom off, because they usually would come in, and see the family and then run off. So I'd wait for my brother, and I saw this little silhouette of my older brother going around the side, and I chased after him and I said, "Hang on a minute, can I come with you, please?" And I begged and begged until he gave up and said, "Come with me." And so we caught, my brother and I, the late night train from my hometown to a neighbouring train station, which was called Burrampore, which is the way that I sort of pronounced it, articulated it. And so we got to Burrampore train station, and I was really, really tired. And my brother stood up, I stood up, I grabbed his hand, and we stepped off the train and onto the platform of Burrampore train station. And I saw a bench in front of me, or a seat, and I pulled my brother towards it. And I sat down, and my brother could see that, oh, Saroo's really tired, perhaps he can just stay here. And he said to me, "Stay here for a second whilst I go off, and when I'm back, maybe I'll bring some food or some money, or we can go somewhere to reside for the night." So I went to sleep, and when I woke up, I have no idea whether I was sort of asleep for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, but when I woke up, my brother was nowhere to be seen. I thought he should be right here, but he isn't. Where is he? And I'm sort of got this sort of groggy, disorientated mentality, feeling that, where is this place? Where's my brother? What am I going to do? And I thought to myself on this impulse decision, not knowing that this impulse decision will change my life forever. And that thought was, perhaps my brother is on this train. Whether it's the same train, a different train, I'm not too sure. But I thought, perhaps he's on this train. And so I boarded this train onto this particular carriage, and looked to the left, looked to the right, and my brother and no one else was there. I thought maybe my brother's on the previous train, and he's a previous carriage, sorry. Let me clarify. Perhaps he's on the previous carriage, and he's going to sweep underneath each of the cubicle of these carriages, because he was trying to find peanuts and money. Because when people sat down in these little cubicles of the carriages, the money would sort of fall out of their pockets, and sometimes you'd get something, sometimes you wouldn't get anything. But that's the thought in my head, that he was in the previous carriage, and I thought to myself, well, if I just sit in this little carriage where I'm in, he will come up from that carriage to this carriage, and then we can go wherever he intends to go to reside for the night. But I had no idea that I've boarded a train and my brother's not even on there. And this is a train, destination unknown, going to wherever it's going to. And at that same point of time is that my mother would also, this would be the last time that she would see her 2 boys. I thought to myself, I'm on this train, and all of a sudden, 12 hours later, but now I figured out it was actually 32 hours later, that I boarded this train and ended up coming to Calcutta train station. And I got off the train, and there was a whole heap of people, a stream of people going left, right, and centre. And I thought to myself, I've never seen this train station before. It's so alienating, it's so different. The architecture of this train station doesn't look anything like the train stations that I've ever seen. And I was pushed to the left, to the right, I was crying. I wanted my mum, I wanted my sister, I wanted my brother. I was just so scared. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do? And I decided to reside in the corner of this train station, hoping that someone would sort of come along, give me some salvation and solace. But no one would come along. And I didn't, no one would help me. I asked for Burrampore, asked for Burrampore, to all these different people that are walking past, but no one thought, well, I guess they thought, well, you're one kid here in the train station and there's thousands outside. Why should you be treated any differently? And so I decided to go out from the Burrampore train station and walk along the railway lines, thinking that probably, someone might come along and help me. But again, there was no sort of results there. No one would help you. You're alone in this train station. You need to eat food. You need to find water. I decided that, there's a little shop there and people would throw their half-eaten food and I'd eat that. And sometimes I'd find water that is stagnant, so I can't drink that. I have to go to a tap where there's fresh water and drink that, just to keep myself alive. And I'm not realising that I'm in a mega city, such a labyrinth of a city, a massive entanglement of big sort of buildings everywhere, and I'm going through all these nooks and crannies, trying to find my way out of this place, thinking, where is there sunlight? Because sometimes it would go dark and sometimes it would go sunlight, and it was really confusing. But the positive thing about that is that I'm trying to get myself out, trying to find someone that would help me. So I met up with some people that said, come along, we can help you. And they work on the side of the railway line near the Calcutta train station. And they said, hey, look, we can give you some food and some water and some shelter and try and help you try and find your parents. And I thought, there's some positivity there. And so I went along with these people, but they had an ulterior motive. And if I stayed with these people, I could have ended up in child slavery, all sorts of things, unmentionable, unknown. So I decided to run away from these people. And I ran away from these people, met a teenager, and I thought, perhaps this teenager could help me. But he decided that he can't help me collectively with his family, and thought, I better hand you over to the authority. So I ended up in the prison for a day, just a small metro prison, and then from the metro prison I went to a youth juvenile prison, where there was all sorts of walks of life of people committed murder, robbery, you name it. The Indian government declared me a lost child of India, and I went from the youth juvenile prison to a place called ISA, the Indian Society of Sponsorship and Adoption, where I stayed for about a month. And the same thing happened there. ISA decided, from the information that they were able to ascertain out of me, which wasn't much. I only knew about 5 to 6 words of Hindi, and that's it. I never went to school. We lived in the slums, and what they could ascertain was the only things that they could work with. And so again, they thought, Saroo, we can't find your family. You're up for adoption. And I was given the option of, would you like to stay in India, in Calcutta, and still look for your family, or would you like to go to Australia and be with an adoptive family that will look after you and take care of you? And I thought at that pivotal moment that, I have looked for my family by looking around all the nooks and crannies and being in this entanglement of a mega city, and there's no way really of getting back home. And so I said to the lady, which is Saroj Sood, I'm going to take this bull by the horn, and I hope, the decision that I make will be rather fruitful. And so I said to Saroj Sood, yes, I would like to go to Australia to be with this new family. Such a contrast, a massive contrast from being in the havoc of India to coming to an aesthetic view of Hobart, Tasmania, Australia, where I met my new adoptive parents. And I think initially, right at the start of going through to the VIP of meeting my new adoptive parents and seeing my mother and father, my new parents, I thought, hang on, these people look positive. There's no sort of hostility here, because I'm so used to being in Calcutta and there's people all around the corner that you've got to watch out. And you don't know what's going to happen to yourself. And so meeting my new family was the point where the brace between mother and son was created, and there was positivity. And I thought, these people aren't here to harm me, they're here to look after me. And so I was taken to my new house. I learnt the Australian language, the culture, the people, and I was really happy. I was given unconditional love. But there was one thing that stuck in my head, was that nostalgia, the ambivalence, the reminiscing of the past, because things just expedited so quickly. I was with my family, my sister, my 2 brothers, and my mum. Then all of a sudden, one night, I caught a train, ended up in Burrampore, and accidentally, not that it was any fault of my own, boarded a train thinking that my brother was on there, and then I ended up in Calcutta train station, where I had to combat trial and tribulations that I went through and all these sort of, sort of dangerous bits, phases and stages where I think, no kid should really have to go through. And then all of a sudden going to a prison, and then a youth juvenile prison, and then coming so quickly from being in Calcutta over to Australia to be with my new adoptive family. So everything has expedited so quickly. But I thought to myself when I was in Australia, it's like, wow, I really hope that my sister's still alive. I hope that my mum's okay. Is my brother's still there? Is Gudu still there? I wasn't a child that was given away. I was a child that was accidentally lost. And not that, as I said before, not that it was any fault of my own. It was just an accident. I mean, I'm just a 5-year-old child, uneducated, and did something that, that I guess any 5-year-old might do. It was just inquisitiveness. And so from being a child, a young child to a teenager to coming to an adult, all these thoughts would sort of come in my head of thinking about my past, and then all of a sudden having astral projections as well, and dreaming, that, perhaps hope that I would ever see my parents again. Is there an opportunity? Is there a way? If there is a way, then I'd have to go back to Calcutta and start going on all these different trains and trying to find that little needle in a haystack, Burrumpore train station. What does it look like? Do you know where it is? I have no idea where it is. You've got over 1 billion people in this mass country with thousands and thousands of train stations, thousands of towns as well. Where are you going to start and where are you going to go? And so as time progressed, I came across an application called Google Earth. I thought, you know what? I can catch a plane millions and millions of times from Australia to Calcutta, but it would cost so much. I thought, why not be smart about things and use Google Earth? Because, hey, it doesn't cost anything. I mean, you do have to pay for your internet connection, but I thought, be smart about things. Don't work too hard. Just, use your mind. That's what it's there for. So I thought I'd use this application, and it made sense. So from about, in 2005, 2006, I started searching for this little needle in a haystack, a place called Burrumpore, as the way that I pronounced it, which has got a water tower on the left-hand side, a flyover bridge, a ravine further on, and a train station on the right-hand side. And that's what I'm looking for in that order, in all over India, starting from Calcutta train station, because that's where I ended up. And so I started haphazardly using Google Earth. And then, after a few years, I became strategic, become more methodical. There was times where you sort of have highs, thinking that, yes, I found the hometown, the train station that I boarded that night. And then you go, well, there's no water tower. And so you go, oh my God, you sort of walk away in dismay. And that sort of thing was going on. You have your highs and your lows. And I thought to myself, there's no point in you going any further, Saroo. You've got to stop. Is there any other way of combating this situation? It's just so hard. And my friends are going to me at when we go out for coffees, Saroo, we know you're in another world, but hey, why don't you give up what you're doing? That's the past, this is now, and there's the future. There's no point in you keep on trying to find your hometown using Google Earth because it's futile. And I thought to myself, you know what? If I listen to all these people that tell me what you're trying to do isn't achievable, then I guess you wouldn't achieve it. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna listen to myself. I've got these weights on my shoulders of my family that has been there for such a long time. I'm going to do something that I want to do, and this is achievable. There's that needle in the haystack. The needle is there in that haystack somewhere. It's just in time that it will take for you to sort of unravel everything, and then in time you will find that needle. But it won't be tomorrow, the next day, or the next year, but in time you will find it. And that's the positive thing about it, is that it's there somewhere. And so in 2000, after searching for 5 years, I decided to do something a little bit different. I thought to myself, you know what, I'm not from the north side of India, it's too cold, and I'm not from the south, because the language is different, and I spoke Hindi. But I couldn't conceive to myself that how could a boy travel all the way from the west side of India on a train and end up on the east side of India? It just wasn't, I couldn't conceive to myself that that could be possible. But you know what, whilst I was on Google Earth, I thought, you know, let's not have any stones unturned. Call it serendipity, call it providence. Why not have a go at looking at the west side of India? And so one early morning, I decided to do that little thing that I wouldn't sort of possibly do and look to the west side of India. I zoomed in on Google Earth on a train station, a railway line, and sort of scrolled and came across, the first thing I did was came across this train station, and I thought to myself, is this it? And I started scrolling, zooming in, and all of a sudden it came about. It was called Burrampore train station. It had everything from the water tower to the ravine to the flyover bridge, absolutely perfect the way that I remembered it. And I thought, this isn't the place which is my hometown. My hometown is prior to this. And I sort of scrolled up, further up, and I found my hometown, which was called Khandwa. So I thought to myself, is this real? Because it was early in the morning, and I woke up after not even getting any sleep at all. About 6 hours of sleep, so I thought I got, but everything was just going so crazy in my head that, you know, I autonomously transcended. I found something that a lot of people thought that I'd never be able to find. And so when I woke up in the morning, I went back on Google Earth, re-looked at to see where, is this true? Is this reality or is this a dream? And I found my hometown again in the morning, which consolidated that this is not a dream, this is reality. And I went to work that day and told my parents about it. And they said, you know what, Saroo, if it was us, we would want to go to India and see if your parents are there. And I said, you know what, with your permission, is it okay if I do that? And they said, of course you can. And so I decided to earn some money and book flights a year later in 2012 and head back to India on a self-discovery journey without my parents. I just wanted to go by myself. And so I went back to India in 2012 and went to Delhi and then then to Indore and then a 4-hour trip to my hometown, which is called Khandwa. And within a couple of hours, this is what happened.
There, at the end of a lane, after 26 years, Saroo's mother, Fatima,
Well, what a major achievement. The power of the mind of what you can do when you believe in yourself. I believed in myself and I didn't listen to anyone else, and look what happened. I found something that I had lost for 25 years, and I did it all by myself with the help of Google Earth, which was, in fact, you could say, the catalyst of finding my family. That scene that you just see there, I can't sort of describe that into words, but the tactility of touch, kiss, tears, I think that sort of explains itself. I didn't realise, but the local policeman decided to alert the media, and people, all these journalists from north, south, east, west, came flocking to my hometown to hear about this amazing, profound story and wanted to share it to the rest of India. And I guess it resonated with the Indian people because there's a similar cult movie called Hero. And that cult movie, Indian cult movie, is about, you know, two brothers who went out and they lost each other. And this is how it resonated. So that's why it became so popular in India. And when I came back to Australia after seeing my family, biological family, the Australian newspaper, BBC, Vanity Fair, everyone wanted to know about this amazing story. And 60 Minutes Australia got hold of the story and wanted to do a little documentary. And one specific thing that they wanted to do was to unite my biological mother with my adoptive mother. Whoops. This is my mother, Kamala. Kamala, this is my mother, Sue. This is my mother. Wow. Well, you know what? That's such an amazing, pivotal time there, because my mother, my adoptive mother, and I used to have little sessions, little sort of sessions where we both on a rainy day sat down and we talked about my family in India. And she used to write it all down. Everything that I said, the way that we slept in her house. And one of the things that my mother did was, Saroo, can you just draw a map of your hometown? And I drew it, and she put it aside and locked it away. And amazing thing about it is that when I told my parents that I had found my hometown using Google Earth, my mother brought that book out with the map that I drew in it and put it adjacent to the screen of Google Earth, and they both exactly matched. And the sessions, these were the sessions that I used to have with my mum. She was like my psychiatrist. I would tell her about my family, everything that I knew. And one of the crazy things, the last session that I had, my psychological session with my mum that I had, was that she said, Saroo, you know what, this is the last session we're going to have, and I want to tell you something, and I hope to God this would come true. I wish I could meet your biological mother, because I can show her what an amazing man that you have grown to be. And case to the point, evidentially, look what happened. In 2012, I was asked to write a book, and I thought to myself, by Penguin, which is now Penguin Random House publishing company, I thought to myself, why do I want to write a book about myself? Because it's so personal. You know, this story is not just about myself, my mother and my family, and my adoptive and biological family. It's an extremely personal story, and I don't really think I want to sort of disclose it. But think about it a little bit differently. You know what? Perhaps there's other people in the world in a similar situation as yourself, Saroo, or a variation of your story. And the Good Samaritan, the humanitarian within me sort of came out, and I thought, perhaps if I can write this book, it would get out in the world to those people that have been in a similar situation. Because this knowledge, I think if I've got knowledge, then why not share it to the world to help others? And on that reason is why I wrote the book A Long Way Home, which came out in 2013 and became a world bestseller. In 2016, last year, the movie Lion came out, and I thought, you know, that would be a great idea, a movie to come out as well for people that like to are stimulated by visually as opposed to being reading. And I'm so elated and happy that it did. And I can say that the movie is about 89% true to what's been written in the book. I think, you know, for myself, a lot of things have happened. I've grown up thinking that I would never find my family, but you know what? I sort of came back and thought to myself that, hey, integral elements are, you know, hope, determination, and if you've got those two things, then anything can happen. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know that it's a bit slow, but